A very good afternoon to all participants. And I welcome once again Dr. Venkatesha sir to this session number 12. Sir,
Yes, sir. Am I audible,
yeah,
sir?
yeah, you are audible, sir. Yeah, I request you to kindly take over, sir.
Yes, thank you, sir. Sir, can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Your screen is visible, sir.
Thank you, sir. So I welcome all the participants for the afternoon session. So now in this session, so I am going to give one small demo on simulation modeling using ANSYS numerical tool. Before starting with the actual simulation, so we have to understand what is that FDTD technique, why we have to go for that FDTD, and what exactly the solutions we get from the FDTD tool. So there are so many solvers are there in the FDTD tool. So whatever the tools we use, so finally we will get the solutions for some set of Maxwell's equations from software itself. So let us have some basics about this FDTD technique. FDTD stands for it is a finite difference time domain technique. So in this case, the numerical analysis, it is a numerical analysis technique. It is used for modeling computational electromagnetics. Okay, this method is also called as East method. It is the name after the famous mathematician Kane S.E. And these are some of the standard Maxwell's equations associated with any materials or any interfaces. Now, with respect to the optical materials is concerned, the key FDTD equations that are the Maxwell equations are, one is that dou D by dou T equal to, that is the curl of magnetic field. And one more is the Maxwell's equation, that is dou B by dou T equal to, it is the curl of electric field. That means wherever we see there is a variation in the either electric field or magnetic field, so we can see that there is an induced electric field will be there. So this is our Maxwell's equations, and the first one is, it is a correction by Ampere's law. So Maxwell's Ampere's equation. Now these equations we are simplifying for the dielectric materials. So for dielectric materials, we know that the current density parameter is 0. So if I put this condition and here the epsilon and mu, they are the material properties. Okay. So these parameters are, all of us are known to us. Okay. And so this particular FDTD technique, it uses central finite difference approximation derivatives. So using this finite difference technique, so it will solve that set of Maxwell equations. Now, so this is the basic equation we are interested to solve for any waveguide equations. So let us say it is the variation of the electric field with respect to time. So it is the curl for the magnetic field. Okay, so if I expand this curl equation, I am going to get the Maxwell's equations, so which are almost 6 varying magnetic field equations I will get. So one is electric field components, other one is the magnetic field components. So you'll get 3 electric field components in the X direction, Y direction, and Z direction. And we also going to get magnetic fields along X, Y, Z respectively. So these fields are varying with respect to time as well as space. So that we are interested to know what is that EX, EY, EZ and even HX, HY, HZ. So once we know this basic confinement parameters, so then we can evaluate what is the power density, all those parameters we can evaluate after solving the Maxwell's equations. Okay. Now, so if I consider one-dimensional problem, say if you consider a linear polarization along x-axis, then that means we are exciting the electric field along the x-axis only. So in that case, we won't get any field confinement in the y and z direction with respect to E field is concerned. Okay. So for this case, let us consider the z is the propagating direction. Z is the propagating direction. Then dou by dou x terms and dou by dou y terms, so will be 0 because we are interested to find what is the term related to, that is dou by dou z parameter we are interested in, because in the z direction, so you will get the propagating wave. Okay, the two simplified Maxwell's equations for this particular conditions are, one is the electric field variation along the x direction, and we know that whenever we have E field variation along the x direction, okay, so we won't be having EY and EZ components, that will be 0. And so we know that so E field and H fields are perpendicular to each other. Okay, so if EY is 0, obviously we will get Y, that is the magnetic field components in those particular direction, that is Y and Z respectively. Okay, so now here just I have included one is the electric field variation along the X direction, and one more will be magnetic field variation along the Y direction. So these two are perpendicular to each other. So now these equations we have to discretize in both with respect to the time as well as the space is concerned. So one is the E field variation with respect to time, and even the magnetic field variation with respect to time. So these are depending on the distance as well. So you can look at these two solutions of the Maxwell's equation. So one is dou by dou z of Hy, and other term is related to dou by dou z of Ex. So this z is a distance parameter. So that means we can clearly say that whatever the solutions we are expecting from the Maxwell's equations, those solutions are depending on time as well as space. Okay, so these solutions we will get by using this computational tools, which are mainly used for solving waveguides or uniphotonic components. Now, if you want to understand in-depth analysis of how these FDTD techniques are worked, so one should know the concept of vectors, electromagnetics, Maxwell's equations, and even we should aware of the linear algebra, because we are interested to find a lot of eigenvalues related to set of the equations. So those eigenvalues are all related in this particular subject, that is linear algebra. And so we should know what are all the different numerical methods that we can use to solve for differential equations. So apart from this, we also should know what are the material properties and the boundary conditions with respect to the particular structure is concerned. And also we should know about what are the basics about various optical sources like plane waves, dipole source, etc. These are used to energize any optical structure. Okay. These are some of the computational tools that are available now. So one is the ANSYS numerical FDTD, and one more tool is their XFDTD, CST Studios tool, and one more is Opti FDTD. So apart from this, we have Opti Beam. So that is also one of the commercial tool. And we have COMSOL multiphysics. So all these tools are available. So to solve the set of Maxwell's equations. So all are commercial softwares. Even the MIP also one of the computational tool that can be used to solve this computational electromagnetic equations. So that is based on the structure. Now, let us see what are the basic steps involved in that is involved. So before going to start with any structure in modeling photonic structures using the FDTD. First, we should know at what wavelength we are working on. So at what is the application we are working. For that particular wavelength, we should do some literature survey, or we have to study some existing papers. We should know what are all the various calculations. All those calculations we should have. Then we can go for designing that particular geometry. Then you should know what are all the particular materials we have to select for various components present in the structure. And we should know also what optical sources we have to use in for the polarization purpose or to excite the optical structure. And also we should know some of the FEM techniques such as meshing, what is the need of the meshing, why we have to discretize the entire structure. Okay. Then some of the boundary conditions related to FDTD and FDE solver, some basic knowledge we should have. Okay. Then after this, we can extract the data from this particular tools and that we can use for analysis purpose. Now, also we should know about whenever you solve the set of Maxwell's equations. So you should get modes, so that modes we should know whether it is TE, whether it is TM. Okay. So this concept of TE and TM should be very clear for you. So then you can clearly distinguish between the E fields and the H fields, whether the confinement mode is a TE or TM. And also we have to decide whether it is a single mode or whether it is a fundamental mode or whether it is a higher order mode. So all those things we can analyze after knowing the basics about this TE and TM. Okay, this is one of the E-grid cells. So this is the basic structure we consider whenever we are going for meshing any of the complex structure in FDTD. Okay, these are some of the simple structures I have taken. See, now before starting with the tool, so we should know the coordinate systems. Always that Z direction, so whatever the vertical axis are represented, so that will give you the what is the depth of the particular structure. That Z is the thickness and X is the width and Y is the propagating direction. Okay, these are the default coordinates whenever we want to implement any structure or whenever we want to design the structure using this particular FDTD tool. Okay, now let us start with the first example. So as I will start with one simple waveguide design. So which may be one simple SOI waveguide. Then after that, so we can go for some of the complex structures such as PCF design and some more examples related to some of the complex structures. Okay. So now whenever I want to design one simple waveguide, so we should know that already the waveguide, simple waveguide means, so we should have one core and we should have one cladding. So this is one simple example of one silicon waveguide. So which is developed on the substrate oxide layer. Okay. So usually all these silicon waveguides, so they are fabricated on SOI wafers. So the bottom layer will be silicon, the middle layer will be oxide, and the device layer will be silicon. Okay. So whenever you purchase any SOI wafer, the bottom thickness will be in terms of hundreds of microns, and the top layer thickness will be in few nanometers. Okay. So now if I design any of the simple waveguide, let us say it is at 1550 nanometer. Okay. So this is the simple thickness calculation equation. So this I have determined for 1550 nanometer. So this is the height calculation equation that I have used. This equation is referred from one of the standard textbook. Okay, here NS stands for substrate thickness, NC is the cover layer thickness, NF stands for the film thickness. Here the film is the guiding layer, that is silicon. Okay, so all these refractive index values we should know, and we should know already what is the wavelength we have to design. So let us say I wanted to design a waveguide, so which transmits the light at 1550 nanometer. So the modal confinement I have to find at 1550 nanometer. So using this equation, I have found the height is around 220 nanometer. It's almost this value you will get. And always the width must be selected more than the height for the better modal confinement along the length of the waveguide. So now let us see how to design this particular waveguide in ANSYS numerical FDTD. Okay, so this coordinates you should know. The X is the width. So you can see I have taken the width as 0 to 10 micrometer. The height is 0 to 2 micrometer, and this propagating direction, this depth can be anything. So you can extend this depth depending on what is the length of the waveguide that is designed. So this is just one two-dimensional layout of the this particular simple silicon waveguide. Now let me present. One minute. Yes, can you see the ANSYS numerical window?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So just I have opened this ANSYS numerical. This is how it looks. So initially you can see here. So the lot of examples are already available. So those who are beginners, they can download any of these already available examples. They can see how they have implemented the structure, how they have used different monitors or different sources, so that always we can refer. So while studying this particular FTTD tool, so when you want to develop or create any of the structures, so you have to start with the first one, how to implement the structure in this particular tool. So now, so already this is one trial version. It will be valid for 30 days. So this trial version I have now. So now when first I have to select the solvers, as I told the FTTD, so this ANSYS numerical tool, it is a tool which is used to solve the set of mathematical equations related to the propagation of light in any optical structures. So when you look up the solvers, so there are plenty of solvers are available to solve that computational electrodynamics problem, electromagnetics problem. Some of the standard solvers are, one is the FTTD solver. So even one more is stack solver is available. Finite difference eigenmode solver. Then EME solver, it is also eigenmode solver. Then variational FTTD. And you can see that some of the examples are there which are not activated. So one is a charge module. It is mainly used for analyzing some of the electro-optic related examples. Like say, if you want to know what is the charge, all those things. That means in the case of say, suppose if it is a photo detector, there we are interested in the charge carrier concentration, all those things. So there we can use this particular charge module. So even we have DGTD modeling, FWM, heat transfer module. So there are plenty of modules are available. And the last one is the interconnect. It is just like, so already, so whatever the photonics circuits we are tracking, all the circuits, including sources, detectors, the different types of waveguides, already they are available in this interconnect tool. Okay, so that we can use. And so just like our electrical circuits, we can connect various components and we can see what are all the optical output parameters in this interconnect tool. Okay. So now let me go for that EME, one of the solver. So to solve that waveguide problem. So I'll go for the eigenmode expansion solver, EME. So I'll click that. So it takes some time. Yeah. So now this is the default layout that you can see. So now here, so you can see all the four views. One is the XY view, XZ view, YZ view, and we can see here the prospective view of the structure, whatever we are going to implement. Okay. So now, as I told, now I have to develop, I will design one simple silicon waveguide. So it needs one substrate, and on that we need one silicon waveguide. Okay. So both are rectangular in structure wise. Okay. That rectangular structures I have to take it. Okay. So now, so here the various icons are available. The first one is a material database. Okay. So whenever you want to design a waveguide, so you should know first of all what core and cladding materials you have to select. When I look at the materials database, already in the default this particular tool, there are so many materials are already available with their parameters taken from the industry standard parameters. So if it is say suppose if it is AGCRC, so you can see it's wavelength dependent parameters here, like it is giving the entire values from almost from the it covers almost entire optical band. Okay. So for all this optical band wavelengths, it will give me what is the real value of the refractive index and what is the imaginary value of the refractive index. And morning I was talking about the real part and imaginary part of the propagation, that is the beta parameter, that is n comma k. Now you can see one simple case. Now this is some wavelength, let me take it. It is 4.13 into exponential -7. That means if I convert this to nanometers, so this value will be, so this is 4.13 into 10 to the power of -7. So if I convert to micrometers, so you will get around 0.41 micro. Okay, so this you can see this entire wavelength is defined here for the all the wavelength ranges. So we have what is the real part of the refractive index and what is the imaginary part of the refractive index. So that they have clearly specified. So now this particular material you can see. So we have all the real values as well as the imaginary values. So that means this AG material, so it is not optically transparent. It is a completely optically absorbing material. So it is, in fact, it is a metal. So we cannot use this particular material for the optical confinement purpose. So we are talking about now silicon waveguide. So if I want silicon waveguide, I should look out the two materials. One is the silicon. So you can see this database. I think the screen is visible, right? Can you see the screen?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
This is silicon poly. Okay. Now this is the silicon properties. You can look out the imaginary part. So the imaginary part, so for some range of wavelengths, it will be completely zero. Okay. It will be completely zero. So it is optically transparent. So from 1.1 micrometers to onwards. So below that, it will be having some imaginary part. Okay, you can see in the beginning, it is having some imaginary part. So later when I go towards the infrared wavelength, so this particular imaginary part will become almost zero. So that means that indicates that this silicon is optically transparent at infrared wavelength region. So now we are going to design this particular silicon waveguide at 1550. So at 1550 nanometer, we should know what is the refractive index. But if I select this material for the geometry, what I am going to choose, so this refractive index will be automatically taken care by the software. So always we have to avoid user defined values, like we cannot define that material as some dielectric. Don't give only the real part of the refractive index. Always if you select the material from this material database, for the given wavelength, whatever be the standard value is there, that is already mentioned in the software, that value will be taken. So some researchers, they may having the habit that they will give only the real part and they will forget to include this imaginary. In that case, it won't be like standard. So we won't get the actual data that we will get after experimentation. So always we have to select the materials from the same database. So this is silicon poly, and one more variations are we have silicon nitride. So the silicon nitride is optically transparent in the visible wavelength range. Okay, that means whenever you want to design any biosensor at visible wavelength. So this is the best material for the core. Okay, so at from 540 to 660 or up to 680, you can select this material for the optical confinement purpose. This is for visible. And next we have this silicon oxide. This is the glass. Okay, silicon oxide is also called as glass or silica. Okay, so its refractive index, you can see it is varying from, so it is from the starting wavelength. So it will be in the range of, this is the optical band we are looking. So the optical band that is 1550 to 1580. So in that particular wavelength range, if you look at the values, so this will be having a refractive index in between 1.4 to 1.5. Around that range we will be having. This is 1050. So like this. So this is your optical band. So there we have this particular refractive index range, and the imaginary part will be almost, it is 0 when we consider that a visible range to almost in the, so this is completely optically transparent in this particular wavelength. So this is in the infrared region as well as in the visible wavelength, we can see this particular parameters. So that means in the, from the material database, always we can consider what are all the real part and imaginary part of the refractive index for each and every wavelength that is mentioned here. So for the complete optical band, they have specified this refractive index variation. We did not worry about what is the refractive index of the material at a given specific wavelength. But you should know always for any given structure what material we have to choose. That minimum knowledge we should have. So we should not give any user defined values whenever you are defining the refractive index for the selected geometry. Okay. This is about the materials. So in the structures, we have almost all the different types of structures. So these are all 3D, from triangle to this planar solid. Whenever you want any two-dimensional layers, like if I want one graphene sheet, graphene is 2D material, I cannot choose one rectangle for defining graphene sheet, but always I can choose 2D geometry, that is rectangle, for the graphene layer. So if you want to deposit one graphene layer on a 3D, any of the face, then you can choose this 2D rectangle for only the graphene. If you are doing graphene based research, always this 2D rectangle, you should know, this is the default layer we select for coating of the graphene layer on any one side of the three-dimensional object. So we have all these different kinds of structures like triangle, rectangle. So all the different kinds of structures are here. Next, related to structures is your components. Already almost majority of the standard components are already inbuilt in this particular tool. So if you want, so already there's many gratings are available. So if you click on the grating, so already so many grating structures are available. So, but you have to look into whether your structure will be, whether it resembles this any of the standard gratings that are already available in the library. So if it is not resembling any of the standard structure, then you can create your own structure using this tool. Next, we have that photonic crystals. So there are plenty of photonic crystals are already available. This is one circular lattice PC array. Okay. So if I insert this, already that circular lattice will be created. So this is already enabled whenever you are designing a PCF of circular shape. So this is the etching region. So first we can define one substrate. Okay. So then we can etch that particular substrate using this, but using this circular lattice PC array, and we have to define this material as etching material. Say suppose if you are filling this each hole with any of the biosamples, so we can define that particular array. Or if you want the ear holes, then you should clearly define. So this particular ear holes index as 1. So that we have to take care. Okay. So this is a circular. So if the parameters, if you want to vary, see here, suppose if I see this particular array structure, the radius of each of the ear hole, this is the first parameter. This is a pitch. So this pitch always can be calculated by Bragg's law. So that whatever the value you get, that value we can substitute here. Okay, their jet span is that is thickness of the each air hole. So it is 0.1. So that's why in the perspective view, so even if I enlarge this particular view, you can't see that much. 1 minute. So this view can be expanded. So this thickness just they are given, it is 0.1 micrometer. So you can rotate like this, and so in the respective view, so we can export this particular view, and that view always we can use it in our papers. Now say if you want, in the case of PCFs, the fiber length will be too long. So this thickness can be always, it can be increased. Say suppose if it is increased to, let us say it is 10 microns. So then if I apply this particular settings, then that length will be, that overall length of the PCF will be increased. That will be reflected in the structure as well. Okay. So now say if I close this particular window, so now we can see the perspective view. So it is almost some 10 micrometer long. Okay. And if I select one circular substrate, then this PCF, circular PCF can be easily formed here. Okay. So like this, many photonic crystal fibers are already available. So this is hexagonal PC. Okay, if you want hexagonal PC lattice, so always you can choose this particular layout, and you can vary the number of layers. So to vary the number of layers in every array, so there is one option called as here they are given number, so n maximum. So n maximum means you can count the number of circles here, like starting from the center. So it is having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is having a total 6 layers here. So these layers, if you want to increase, you can increase it by choosing this particular n maximum value. So it is having almost from 0 to 6. 0 is the center hole, and then after that it is surrounded by periodic circular holes. So that holes are arranged in the circular manner. So with a pitch of how much, it is 0.13 micrometer. This parameters always we can vary as per our design. So this is the radius variation, and the initial position is the origin, like from where we have to start the structure. Always we have to start the structure from the exact origin position. So the origin for the 3-dimensional XYZ plane is 0, 0, 0. Otherwise, if you give this particular XYZ some values, if you give, then you will get the shift in that particular axis. Okay, if I give 5, 0, 0, your structure starts from that particular coordinate, and it will be extended. It will be extended into the respective dimensions. Okay, then the material, whatever the material we want to give for this particular PC, that is circular defined arrays. So that material, we have 2 options. One option is we can select from the object to library. So if you select the object library, already it will give you so many options for you. So otherwise you can give object defined. If you want air holes, then you can give the air holes, that air refractive index as 1. It is purely real. So that value we can give. Or you can define any of the material in the beginning itself. Say if I want to define any new material. So with the refractive index purely real, say suppose I want to add the etching material as air. So there is an option called as add material here, but you should know the actual values as per the industry standard. Then only we can go for this particular method. Okay. So if I say here is a purely, it is a optical material, so which has least value of the refractive index, that is 1. So there is the least refractive index value, that is a purely dielectric medium. So now in the case of PCF, that air holes are etched. Okay, then I can give this name as etch layer. And you can see this mesh order. So where this mesh order plays very important role is whenever we are having overlapping structures. So now, so this air holes, I have to, this air holes will be present in the that is the cladding region. So the cladding, I have to give some solid material, either that can be silicon, or it can be silicon, or it can be terahertz application, it can be Teflon or xenon. Okay, so that so this air walls will be overlapped with one more geometry. Whenever we have overlapping structures, this mesh order plays very important role. So that I will explain when I am explaining that particular overlapping structures. So always we can give the highest mesh order for the whichever the material we are interested to simulate in that particular overlapping region. So whatever the color you want, that color also we can select it. Okay, so here I have defined H as one of the material. The H refractive index I have given as 1. That refractive index here we have to give. Default value will be 1 whenever we are defining the new material. And its value as per our convenient, we can change it. Just you can take dielectric, some material name we can give like H material. Okay, new material name we can give. And that mesh order will be there. This mesh order we have to select based on the what is the overlapping number. And this value always we can edit this value. So if you want to give any of the fluid refractive index around 1.34 something, that value we can give. And you can click OK. That material will be available in the material database. And while choosing this particular material for this already standard arrays, so instead of giving that index number here, so we can choose that particular material from the database. I gave that material as some H underscore some value I give. So H underscore material. So this I can take. So this value I given as 1.34. That refractive index, purely real refractive index, will be reflected for all the holes that is present in this particular circular structure. Okay. So if I, yes, I applied that setting. So for that 1.33, that color also it has changed. So like this, we have so many already inbuilt array kind of structures here. So these are some of the integrated components structures. So these are all bent waveguides, cross waveguides, directional coupler, linear taper, ring resonator, S bend, straight waveguide, Y coupler. Already these structures are available in the database. Remember, for all these structures, default Z will be the Y-axis. That means that Z-axis you have to take it as a thickness. Then X-axis you have to consider as width, and Y-axis you have to consider as the propagating direction. So this is a default sign, that is the coordinates assigned for this standard components. That is the reason, even while developing the structure, so we have to consider ZY plane as the 2D view. That is what we are the print view we are expecting. And the propagating direction will be Y direction. Okay. So now let me start with the first example, that is a standard SY waveguide. So there the substrate will be, so let me take one substrate. Let us consider the width of this particular substrate is 10 micrometer. Okay. And if you consider the industry standards for SY wafer, so we have wafers with 1 micron and we have wafers with 2 micron SY thickness. That SY thickness, thickness means that I have to define it now. So you can go for right click this particular material. The geometry has taken as a 3-dimensional rectangle. Okay. Now this is X coordinate, this is Y, this is Z. So here you should remember this Z is for the height, thickness. This Y is for the propagating direction. And this X we are defining for the width of the waveguide. That is the width of this particular material. Let us take the overall width is 10. Overall width is 10. So this is the shift actually. The shift is 0. Whenever this initial shift is 0, if the span is 10, so that the minimum and maximum values are calculated based on the what is the initial value and what is the final value. Okay, so it is symmetric with respect to 0. So plus 5 to the right side and another 5 to the left to this particular value. So 0 to the right is plus 5 and 0 left is minus 5. From minus 5 to plus 5, the overall width will be, it is 10 micrometer. Say suppose if I give some shift here, say if I give some 5 micron shift, then what happens is this -5 to 5, this entire values get shifted to the right by 5 units. Okay, so all the units are in micrometers now. That scale also you can change in the simulation settings in the beginning. Okay, so if your structure dimensions are in nanometer, it's better to go to settings and change that length scale to nanometer. If the structure dimensions are in micrometer, go to the settings and it is by default, it will be in micro. If I give a shift of 5, so if I click OK, so then your X minimum has changed to 0 and X maximum is changed to 10. So my suggestion is always don't change this initial value, let it be at the center. Okay, your structure will be symmetric with respect to the origin. So right side and left side, it will be symmetric with respect to the coordinate systems is concerned. So now I have taken the overall width of this silicon layer as a silicon dioxide layer as a 10. Okay, then this is Y. So as I told, this is the depth of the waveguide. This depth you can give. So whatever the length you want to define for the waveguide, the length is called as this is the along the Y direction. So I can go up to some 10 micrometers range, or even we can go beyond that also. So let us take some 20 micrometers. So if I go 20, that 3D will be not visible properly. Okay, I am taking the length of the waveguide as 5. This is length, this is the width. Now I have to take the thickness. As I told, the industry standard is 2 micron is the maximum. Okay, so this thickness we can always increase. So always the thickness should be it should be minimum equal to micron. So it will avoid some leakage into the cladding region. Okay, so if I click, so you can note down this. So your initial geometry, that is your silicon dioxide layer. So this is just a geometry so far, it is a rectangle. Now I have to define a material. So as I told, don't define the refractive index value directly here. So instead, you go to the material database, you select the material that it is already available in the database. Now I want silicon dioxide. So you can see a silicon dioxide poly. It is available. That always you can select. So by default, the mesh order will be 2. Let it be as it is, because here we won't get any overlapping structure. When we have to change this overlapping means, say if this rectangle is overlapped with one more structure, in that case, I have to give some priority for the structures. So there this mesh order comes into picture, but in this case, it is not needed. So your rotations, we are not changing the orientation. It is a standard view. So the graphical rendering, so this I'll explain while taking that export parameter. So I'll apply these settings. So click on OK. So now you can see the one rectangle. So always you can use this pan to adjust the geometry, or you can zoom the material, this particular layer. So this is the 3-dimensional view. Okay. So you can see here. Okay, so this we can rotate as per our convenient. Okay, so this thickness is I have given 2 micrometer. One more is the overall width of this particular layer I have selected at 10, and the depth I have selected as it is the length of the waveguide. It is around 5. So these are the dimensions I have taken. So now on this, I want one silicon waveguide at the center. So as per the calculations, the thickness of the silicon is 220, that is along the Z direction. And one more is the width. I have to take almost double of the thickness for better optical confinement. So for that purpose, so in order to not to change any of the coordinates, always, because the next layer, that is which is present on this silica substrate, it is also the same shape, that is the rectangle. So just I will duplicate this. Okay, already the default axis will be already available here, so we need not worry about it. So we are not worrying about the x is the width now. So this width I have to change it. So this width I am changing to now 0.5 micrometer with respect to center. Okay, I am not changing the length of the waveguide. The length will be as it is. Next is the thickness. So I want this second layer. So this layer I want on top of the silica. So your silica layer, it is starting from -1, it ends at +1. 1 onwards, I want the silicon layer. So your silicon thickness is 220 nanometer. So if I convert to nano, that is the micrometers, so it will be 0.22. So this particular silicon layer, it should start from 1, and the final value depends on what is the height of the waveguide. So height of the waveguide, I told it is 220 nanometer. In types of microns, it is 0.22 micron. So if I add that particular 0.22 for the initial value from where we should start this particular structure, that is 0.22. So then you will get this maximum value of the Z as 1.22. That means your silicon layer, it starts at 1 micrometer and it ends at 1.22. The overall thickness will be 0.22 micrometers. So which comes to the same thing, that is 220 nanometer. Now I have to select the material for this particular geometry. So here itself, if you want to apply the settings, you can apply. So you can see the structure here. Okay. So structure is already created. So now here I have to select the material. So the material is silicon. So go to the material database. Okay. Select silicon polycast material. So we have to apply this material. So then that same thing will be reflected on this particular geometry. Okay. Then we are not giving any rotations, and graphical rendering also we are not changing. So just apply this and click OK. So you can see the waveguide here. So this is the 2-dimensional view. So this is the 3D view. So just this 3D view we can rotate. You can see here that on the 3-dimensional view. So the silicon waveguide, it is created on top of the silica. So this view we can clearly see. Now here I have given the width as almost it is 10 micrometer, which is not needed because the width of the waveguide, it is just 0.0 micrometer, and compared to the width of the waveguide, the substrate is having more width, so that we can always reduce for better visibility. This is having 10. Let me change it to some 2 micrometers. So apply this. Okay. So now we can see it is one clear view we can see. Now this width of the substrate is 2 micron, and the width of the channel is, it is silicon waveguide is 0.5 micrometer, and the thickness also we can see in the same scale. Okay, so this thickness is SiO2 thickness is, it is 2 micrometer, and the silicon thickness is 0.22. It is 0.22. So now in this particular material, in this particular waveguide, so now we are interested to solve the basic wave equations. As I told, this wave equations can be solved by any of the solvers. So now I have to select the solver for this particular geometry. So if you go to this simulation, so here we have in this EME solver. So there are 3 solvers are available. One is the eigenmode solver, variational FDTD solver, and EME solver. So this is a waveguide. So always you can go for this eigenmode solver. So it quickly gives the modes that we are interested to calculate for any of the simple waveguides like this. Not only this, for any optical structure, if you are interested to find the basic Maxwell equation solutions, like all the 6 fields. So I want Ex, Ey, Ez, and even Hx, Hy, Hz, and even I want what is the power density along X, along Y, along Z. So then basic, very simple solver is this eigenmode solver. Okay, eigenmode solver. So this solver I have to select now. So if I click on this solver, so it appears, now we have to select the geometry, where exactly I have to place it. Now, in order to place the geometry, don't simply drag this FDE solver. So already we know our structure. So our structure is having overall width is how much? Around, I have changed this overall width to how much? The overall width to just 2 microns. Okay. And this is x-axis, and your y-axis is the length of the waveguide. The length I have taken as 5, and z is the depth of the waveguide. Z is the depth of the waveguide. Now, Now the propagating direction is along the y-axis. So now in this particular direction, I should know what is my E field confinement, what is my H field confinement, and what are the various power density parameters. So for that purpose, if I first right click on the FDE solver, first it will ask where exactly you have to place this particular solver type. Okay, it will show first one as temperature. Anyhow, it is we are simulating at standard room temperature, 300 Kelvin. So by default, the background index will be 1. Okay, in some papers say they will change the refractive index of the background material. So like say if the entire waveguide, I have to place it inside one analyte. Okay, so that analyte index we can give. So this overall structure will become one sensor, and based on the this particular index, so we will get the mode confinement in this particular geometry. So now I am not interested to change that because I wanted to know this waveguide parameters. So by default, it will be simulated in the free space. So that is the here will be the refractive index. That will be as it is. Now this propagating direction is y. Okay. So y means the two-dimensional view will be, it is z and x. So I want to place this particular FDE solver in zx view. So now the solver type must be zx view, means it will be normal to which particular coordinate. I want to place this FDE solver in the two-dimensional view zx. So that will cover the two-dimensional view of this particular geometry. Okay, z will be your depth axis and x will be your width axis. Because zx means it must be normal to the 2D y normal. So 2D y normal means, so this particular FDE, so it will be placed in the zx plane. Similarly, if I select 2D x normal, then this particular FDE solver, it is placed in the zy plane, So next we have 2D z normal also. So if I select this 2D z normal, then your two-dimensional view must be xy view. But as I told in the beginning, so your depth axis will be z and your width axis will be x. So I want in the zx plane. ZX plane, I have to place it that too at the center of the waveguide. So that means I have to place this FDE solver. So that is normal to the propagating direction. So normal to the propagating direction is, now I have selected the propagating direction as y. And even if I write any wave equations in that particular research paper, always I will consider this y as the propagating direction. I will change that all the equations to in terms of y. That is how we should write it with respect to our structure is concerned. So by default, in most of the textbooks and all, they will write the equation in terms of either z, either in x, or you can change it to any of the required direction based on what coordinates we are selecting for the structure. So now the propagating direction is y. So I am selecting the FDE solver, which is normal to the propagating direction, so that this FDE solver, so it will cover entire my 2D view at any point along the waveguide. Okay, so next I have to select where exactly I have to place it. So always the best way is to place at the exact center of the waveguide. Okay, so now this particular dimensions I have to select it. Okay, so now this is the depth, and this is y is the depth of the waveguide. So this y I will take it as 0. The reason is, if I select this y as 0, the y is the propagating direction. Okay, so just I will apply it here. I will just explain why I have selected this y as 0. Okay, if you see both the geometries, your structure is symmetric with respect to 0, with respect to y as well as with respect to x. So this 0, 0, 0, that will be the midpoint of the, or that I can consider it is the midpoint of the entire geometry. Now, the moment I select this particular length point at length z equal to this particular value y equal to 0, then the solver will be placed at exactly center of the structure. So that we should know that y is the propagating direction, and we have to mention that particular y. So because we are selecting this as a 2D y normal, this 2D Y normal means you can give only one position for the Y, where exactly you want to get the modal confinement. I wanted to get exact at the center. If I keep it to -2, this will be one of the extreme end. Or if I keep it to +2, this will be other extreme end. Always keep it 0. So this the FD solver appears at the center. And this width, I have to cover the entire width of the structure. Okay. So now, if I want to cover the entire geometry, so then I know that the width of the waveguide is how much? It is 0.5 micrometer. Whereas the width of your that is oxide layer is around 2 micrometers. So let me cover that entire silica. It will cover your silicon waveguide also. And this Z is very important. So here I have to cover both silicon as well as a silica layer. That means both substrate as well as that is silicon waveguide. So your entire structure, just I will tell this. So this one, you can look at this first one. So this is your material is glass. Okay, so you can name this as substrate, or it is buried oxide. Okay, BOX. Okay, so here you can see the Z is starting from where it is -1, it ends at +1. So you should note these values. Okay, and this is your silicon layer. You can name this rectangle name as silicon. This is always better to name the each component immediately while selecting the material name. So that same material we can give it to this particular thing. So this is starting at 1 and it ends at 1.22. Okay, so we have applied this setting. So we have one buried oxide layer at the bottom. On top of that, we have silicon waveguide. Now, in the depth wise, in the FDE solver, I have to cover, I must cover. So both starting from -1, this is Z minimum. From -1 to +1, we have silicon dioxide, that is a buried oxide layer. From that 1 to 2.22, we have that is silicon waveguide. So let me cover both the components. It is 1.22. That means this thickness, we have to select the entire range of the whatever the geometry we are having in the vertical direction. So we have the both these geometries starting from -1 to 1.22. That entire full range we have to select it. So then we can apply the settings. Then that same settings you can see here. Then this is also very important. Mesh settings is very important. Since the FDE solver type is Y normal, so in the with respect to Y, we are not having any cells. So, but in the other direction, that is XZ. So in this two-dimensional plane, so we can discretize our entire structure into small structures. So I can give up to 100 × 100. That means so it will discretize that entire structure from Z coordinates and that X coordinate, whatever structure we have, that will be discretized into 100 × 100 dimension, and we will get small regions, and it will consider the finite element method for evaluating the entire Maxwell equation solutions. Okay. And this minimum step size also we can define it. What is the minimum step size we wanted to define for this particular meshing? Okay, so by default it will be 1 micron. So that means each cell. Okay, and the grading point factor also it is 1.41421. So if we give to less value, this minimum mesh step, it takes more time for the simulation. So if you want to get quickly the results of any of the complex structure or any large dimension optical component, always it's better to give some larger value for the minimum mesh step. But the disadvantage is the accuracy will be very less when we give the minimum mesh step value as large. When you want more accurate, give as much as less this particular value. So let it take some time. You will get more accurate results of the mode confinement along X, along Y, and even that power density results. So this value, we have to keep it as minimum as possible. Now, for this demo, let it be 1 micro. And these boundary conditions are very important. Okay. So in some cases where we don't want any absorption or cases, so there we can go to These are the various boundary conditions are there. But these boundary conditions concept you must understand from the textbook and what structure you are implementing. For that particular structure, you should know all these boundary conditions. Okay. So now for this waveguide, I'm keeping these boundary conditions as metal itself. So if I get any leakage, then at that time I can go to this perfectly matched layer boundary conditions. Okay. This is the material. So this we are not changing any parameters in this particular section, but this boundary conditions we will choose based on the structure. For waveguides, we can retain this as metal itself. Some case, if you won't get any solution to the Maxwell's equations, then we have to vary the boundary conditions at the respective axis. Okay. So now this impedance also, it is not related to optical components. This we won't touch it. And here we have mesh refinement. Here some of the mathematical iterative methods are there. Okay, by default, this conformal variant one method will be there. Let it be as it is. So we have other methods also to solve this finite difference equations. These are all the mathematical, so many methods to solve the iterative methods. The new method you can choose, but each method will give you the different solutions. So by default, this conformal variant one will be there. This is the default iterative methods that is used to solve this finite difference problem. And these are some advanced options are there. We are not changing these coefficients. These coefficients we are not touching in any of the examples. This will be retained as it is. See, this last three, material, impedance, and advanced options, we are not changing at all. But boundary conditions, this concept you should know whenever you are deciding on which particular example you are taking or what factors you are extracting and all those things. This boundary conditions concepts we should know. Then this mesh settings, always you can give more number of excels and these cells we can always increase. And this step size, always you can keep it as minimum as possible to get the more accurate results. Okay, just to save the time, we cannot give the large mesh step size. So we will get quickly the results, but the accuracy or the number of points will be very, very less. So that must be avoided. We have to keep this minimum steps size as less as possible. And this geometry, it is selected based on which is the propagating direction or at what point we are looking the mode solutions. Okay, modal solutions. Okay, these are the general settings. So here by default, the temperature will be there. And the solver type you have to select based on your structure. So here I have selected 2D Y normal because I know that the two-dimensional view for the structure is ZX. That's why I have taken this solver type. It is perpendicular to the propagating direction. That is as simple as that. We have to select this solver type perpendicular to the propagating direction of the wave. Background index, you don't change it unless it is required. Say if you want to immerse this entire device in any of the liquid samples or any of the electric layers, then only you can change this. Otherwise, we are evaluating this computational electromagnetic solution in the free space. So you can apply these settings. Okay, so now you can see that FDE solver, it is appearing like one covering ring in the this shape. This is exactly at the center. So now you need not to define any sources in this case of FDE solver. Okay, so now directly I can go for run. So you can run the setup. Now this wavelength is already at, you can see I am looking for modal analysis. Okay, so this is your eigensolver analysis. So this particular solver will give you the different modes. So along X, Y, Z, and even both your electric field, magnetic field, and the power density. So all those parameters we will get. Then after getting the respective modes, then we can go for the advanced analysis, whatever they have mentioned here, so that we can explain it. Now let us, let me run this particular example. Now here, see where we have to search the mode. So this is very important. So now I have to give what is the range I have to look into. Now I know that the silicon and silicon dioxide, their refractive indexes are substrate refractive index is around 1.5 and your silicon will be around 3.6. So I have to always remember the effective index will be almost, it will be lesser than the highest refractive index and greater than the least refractive index present in this particular structure. So in the given structure, the least refractive index is that is the silicon, that is a substrate one, and your silicon is a guiding layer. It will have a refractive index around 3.6. So now I have to search for the modes that are above, say it is the minimum refractive index 1.5. I will take 1.6, and the maximum refractive index, let us say it is you will get less than 3. Let us say I want to search the modes in between 1.6 to 3. Okay. So now this bent waveguide problem, we will consider only in the case of fibers. Okay. So only the fibers have the tendency to bend. Only in those cases we consider this bent waveguide. But in this case, these are the linear waveguides. So there is no problem of the bending. Okay. So that we are not disturbing at all. Okay, then we can click on this. This is helical, this is straight waveguide. So this column also it is not there. So you can just click on calculate modes. So it will take some time. So it will give you almost all the solutions in this particular wavelength range. I have selected the wavelength range from 1.6 to around 3. In that particular range, whatever the modes that can be confined within this particular geometry, all that modes will be captured by this FDE solver, and we can see all the modes in this particular result section. So it will take some time. Already you can see here mode 1, mode 2, mode 3. So 3 modes it is showing. Okay. Now let me expand this this one. Yes. So you can see now the moment I run this particular simulation, you can see the confinement, it is in the silicon waveguide. Okay, so this is one of the mode. This is one more mode, and these are the 3 different modes. Okay, yeah. Now you can look at this particular parameters. Whenever you run the simulation, the eigenmode solver, the first one gives you what effective refractive index. Okay. So as I told, so now there are 3 particular modes are there. So all these 3 are the modes for this particular waveguide at the selected wavelength 1.55 micrometer. So the effective index for the mode number 3 is 2.817033. The wavelength is at 1.55. You can see the loss. The loss is completely 0 because silicon is completely transparent at the wavelength of 1.55. You won't get any leakage into the cladding region. And this is the group index parameter, that is 4.287173. And it is the TE polarization factor, where TE to TM ratio it is mentioned, and it is the effective area. Whenever you want to calculate the power, okay, we have to multiply that power density with the respective mode area. This mode area always we can take it. Okay. This mode area, the unit will be square micrometers. So because it is X into Z, along X side V, we are finding this particular mode. Okay. So now you can see that height is less. So that's why the confinement, you can see one single mode confinement here. Okay. Now this is also the other mode. This is one more mode. Okay, so there are 3 different modes are there. Now the same results you can see in this analysis group also. Okay, now after running this FDE at selected wavelength, so you can look at the various solutions for this particular modes. So out of these 3 modes, I will select the last one, mode number 3. If I right click on this particular mode, so I'll get E components, H components, and P components. Here E is the electric field components, H is the magnetic field components, P is the power density, and this is the far field radiation. Okay, so these results always we can see. So if I click on the E, you will get the electric field. The same results you can see in this particular window also. In this window already the we can see this same results. These are the modal fields. If I click on these components, you can see the E intensity is the collective E intensity, whatever we are observing in this particular diagram. Now, if you want all the different 6 particular solutions, 3 electric field and 3 magnetic field. So you can see EX, EY, EZ. So this is readily available for this particular mode. And even HX, HY, HZ. And even we can see that power density also. So the power density along X direction, Y direction, and Z direction. And even you can see that energy density plot also. Now, if I click on this E intensity, by default, whenever you run, it will show the electric field intensity. Now, if you want to see the H intensity, just you can change it to H. Okay. Now you can observe this is H intensity. So it is represented in the different colors. Okay. So the highest, that red, wherever red color is there, it is having a magnitude of around more than 9 into 10 to the power of -5 amperes per meter. Okay. So if you look at the E field confinement, so your E field maximum value here, it is showing it is 1, that is red at the center of the waveguide. Okay. Similarly, we can check along each direction. What is the E field confinement along X? This is along X direction. This is along Y direction. E field along Y direction. So you can see in the Y direction, complete mode is confined. That means width wise, the mode is confined effectively, because I have given width more compared to the height. Okay, along Z direction, we can check Z direction. So this is Z direction, we can see. So this compared to the width, the Z thickness is small. That's why you can see there is a clip of this mode. Okay. Similarly, we can check HX, HY, HZ, and even you can see this power along X direction, power that is power density along X, power density along Y, along Z direction. If I click PX, you can see this one, this mode. So this PX, it is the resultant of the multiplication of that is EX and HY. Okay, so, EX and HX. Similarly, PY will be, it is EY into HY, and PZ will be, it is EZ into HZ. So the unit for this PX, PY, PZ will be, the unit for the electric field confinement is, it is volt per meter, and the magnetic field confinement is ampere per meter. And for this power, since it is a product of electric field and the magnetic field, that is from the Poynting vector, the unit will be volt ampere per square meters as per the standard SI. So volt ampere, it will be considered as watt, okay, and the denominator will be square meter. So that particular parameter, watt per square meter, in the case of radiating systems, it is considered as Poynting vector. So this is Poynting vector along X, Poynting vector along Y, and this is Poynting vector along Z direction. Okay, these are a linear scale. So this is the default Cartesian coordinate system. Even if you want to see this in cylindrical coordinate, just you can change the coordinate and you can check it. So this will be shown in the respective cylindrical coordinate system also. So by default, we will observe all the model results in Cartesian coordinates only. So if you want to see this particular results in a new window, always you can see. If I click on the new window, so this will be plotted, and this file can be exported to JPEG, and we can use this particular result. Okay, this is one way of seeing this model confinement. So whenever we want to export the data, so in that particular case, so you come to this particular object tree. So there you can look into the various modes. Say I want to export the electric field confinement of the mode number 3. Okay, so I can click on that E field. Okay, so it will show the E confinement plot. It is showing as an image now. Now I want a line plot of this. So the line plot, if I click it, the same whatever the image in the image it was showing the same electric field intensity. Now it is showing like one Gaussian curve. So it is a standard Gaussian shape pulse. So it is having a single pulse. As we know, the Gaussian pulse, it is highest intensity at the center. Okay. So now its intensity will be like 1 by root 2 pi into the standard deviation. Some formula is there. Okay, so this is one single mode confinement. So this is always, if you want to export this data in the form of the image, you can export it. All these options are there. So we have PNG option, JPEG option, PDF option, EPS option. But always we won't export this image as it is to use it in our research papers. We will always export the text document. Okay, so either we can export to the text file, then take only the Y data, and this data we know -1 to +1. This is the width of the waveguide. So with respect to the width of the waveguide, the variation of this electric field intensity is shown here. So this width will be known to us. Always you can click on this export to text file, and that data we can save it to any of the folder. You can create some folder for this particular example. Okay, and you can save each and every results. So like if I save this as example 1. Okay, so now within that example 1, this is E field confinement. It is a cumulative E field. It is not EX, EY, EZ. It is the E field confinement of the entire waveguide. So this E field text file you will get. And if I open the text file, it will show all the intensity variations from 0 to the maximum intensity. I can see here it is around 1.4782 into 10 to the power of -9 at the center of the waveguide. So these units will be volt per meter. So this data always we can take, or even we have the option to export this data to MATLAB, and there also we can plot it. And here itself, if you want to change some of the settings here, like if you want to give the title of this particular plot, you can give. Like say, if I want to give this title as E field, okay, you can give always that some title we can give instead of X in meters. So now we can give that X is, it is a width of the waveguide, so that always we can define it here. So, but we are exporting the data in the form of the text, and that data, if we plot it using some tools such as Origin or Mathematica, it will have more visual effects than this image in the standard results. It is width of the waveguide. So these options are there, you can use it. So the Y label is, the Y is the thickness of the waveguide. It is the thickness of waveguide. The thickness is Z-axis. Okay, the thickness axis is your Z-axis. Generally, I will give thickness of waveguide. So all are in already, it is in the standard scale, so that we need not to change. So when I give this name, so that same thing will appear, so that I can close it here. It is the width of the waveguide along with respect to the thickness. So this is the confinement of the mode. The confinement, sorry, this is the electric field. This particular Y intensity is, it is E field intensity in volt per meter. E field intensity, and the unit for this one is, unit for this particular component, it is volt per meter. So that we can give. Yeah, so this we can give. Yes, it has appeared. Is the electric field intensity versus the width of the waveguide. You can see the maximum intensity in the Y direction. So in the same way, we can observe the H field intensity, even the pointing vector, and even the radiating component. So the radiating component, we are not interested for this particular examples because these are waveguides, not radiating elements. So if you want power, this is P means it is not power, it is a power density. It is a watt per square micrometer. So these are the values. If you want the line plot, you can take the line plot, export it, you will get all the values. So for the entire width of the waveguide, so what is the power density variation along the depth Y direction? So how it is varying. So this always, this data also we can export it and we can use it to our calculations. And one more I told, this power density unit is watt per square meters or watt per micrometer square. Okay. Now here you can see this particular mode area. So what is the mode area? The mode number 3, it is having an effective mode area of how much? It is 0.121747 micrometer square. So whenever I multiply this effective area for this particular data, that whatever I am going to export to the file, okay, this is the power density. So the power density into respective mode area, if you multiply, you will get the power confinement in the particular waveguide. So this is power density data. So this power density data, you have to multiply with this effective mode area, then you will get the actual power confinement in the waveguide at where exactly at the center. Okay, if you are not multiplying, so this data cannot be considered as a power. This is always considered as a power density. So this cannot be considered as a power component. It is power density. So this, if you want to convert it to power for the respective mode, you should note down what is the effective area from the modal results. It is mode number 3 I am looking. For mode number 3, effective area is this much. That is this particular value I have to multiply. Then I will get the power confinement. Then if you want variation of power with respect to the effective index, so that power values we will be having. And the effective index for this particular mode is 2.817033. So if you divide this, then you are going to get the variation of power with respect to the effective index. That is effective index. So that can be always calculated based on the effective index and this power confinement values. Okay, these are the modes related to one simple waveguide. Now, as we know, we have simulated this particular solution for a single wavelength. How much it is? 1.55 micrometer. So in the same solver, okay, so we have frequency analysis. So you can see this is modal analysis. So this will be simulated for a single wavelength. Now, we will go to the next one, frequency analysis. Here we have the option. To select any of the respective modes. So already I have taken the power confinement and the E-field confinement for mode number 3. So now let me select this particular mode. So I have selected mode number 3. I have to track this particular selected mode. So now I have to give what is the starting wavelength and what is the ending wavelength. So now it is whenever you choose this particular selected mode, since you have simulated at 1.55, you can vary this top wavelength. So let us evaluate all the variation of the effective index, all the remaining parameters of the any optical waveguide up to, let us say, 1550 nanometer to, let us say, up to 1600 nanometer. So I will give up to stop wavelength as 1.6. Then I will get the variation of the effective index and even the variation of the loss, variation of group index, and even I told one more important parameter will be dispersion. So dispersion calculation, even the beta calculations, everything it will be included in this frequency analysis. So now I have selected the start wavelength as 1.55. I am going up to 1.6. So now the number of points it will ask. Don't select only 10 points here. Then in the plot, you will get only 10 points. When you want to export that to text data, and if you plot, that plot, it won't look like one smooth curve. Okay. So if you want to get a smooth curve, always you choose this number of points as high as possible. Let us select 100 points. Then you will get one smooth curve. Even if I plot take the results to plot that results for any paper writing. Now here the number of test modes are, I am going to test the moment to tick this track selected mode. So you are going to track only one mode. So otherwise all the different 3 modes, all these 3 modes gets combined and you will get the combined plots that we are not interested in. So I am going to track only one mode. Okay. And see, I have selected already the track selected mode. Then I need not to give effective index. Okay. So if I untick this one, then I have to give the effective index. So the effective index of the mode number 3 as per the results is 2.817033. Even if it is 6th digit, that is very important value. We have to give all the values. Now you can vary this. So the starting value also, if I untick the track selected mode. If I tick this, so this values will be default, it will be considered, and you cannot change the starting value of the wavelength sweep. So now it is, I can evaluate all the modal parameters related to this simple waveguide from 1.5 micrometers to 1.6 micrometer. It is the complete C-band. So now we're testing only one particular mode, which is having a effective index of how much? 2.81703. Now, I want a detailed dispersion calculation also. It is not a bent waveguide, that is not to be selected. No need to select. Then it is not helix waveguide also. Then I can click on the frequency sweep. Okay. So then just we can run this. It takes some time to give the results. Am I audible to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. See, it is one simple waveguide, but this is the steps we have to look into any complex structure also. If you learn for one simple example, and only the thing will be your structure will be different, but the analysis will remain the same. Okay, you will get all the modal confinements, even the power density curves, electric field curves, and even the magnetic field, all the confinement modes you will get. Why we need this frequency analysis is we want to know the behavior of the waveguide for the complete wavelength range. So I want this waveguide to be simulated for the entire C band from 1.53 to up to 1.58. Then I have to see at what wavelength it gives some optimum results or optimum sensitivity. In that case, I have to sweep, I have to go for this frequency analysis. So you cannot run a simulation for 1.55, then 1.56, 57 like that. So in this frequency sweep, we can give what is the starting wavelength and what is the ending wavelength. This entire sweep analysis, it is done based on the single value, that is the effective index. So 2.817033 I have given because I wanted to change the starting wavelength also. Okay, so for this particular mode number 3, now it has produced some of the results here. Okay, so this here the first one is, it is showing the variation of effective index with respect to wavelength. As I mentioned, the starting wavelength was 1.5 and the ending wavelength was 1.6. You can see it is a, since it is a normal simple waveguide, there is a step variation in the refractive index. It is just like plotting one simple effective index variation with respect to lambda. So it is inversely proportional. As the wavelength increases, the effective index is it is decreasing. So when we have some graded index kind of structures or some PCF or photonic crystals, so you won't get the linear variation of the effective index. You will get some curve type of this effective index variation. Always when we talk about this linear type of the waveguides, like straight waveguides, which has a single cladding and that is single cladding and single core material, always the plot will be linear. So you can see this particular result. So if you want to plot this result in new window, always we can see here. So if I click on the new window, so it will show this particular mode result. Okay. Now this results, you can see this is the effective index. Now, if I want to see the various other frequency analysis results, we can click on this frequency plot. Okay. Now, the first result, whatever it is showing in this particular plot is this one, the effective index variation with respect to wavelength. Similarly, like effective index, there are so many other parameters are there for the waveguides or the optical structures. You can see one is the loss. Next is gain, group index, group velocity, group delay, dispersion, and beta calculation, and the characteristic impedance. See, all these results now we can see in the entire range from 1.5 to 1.6 micrometers. When I click on the loss, it will show the loss as completely 0 because your waveguide is completely transparent from 1.5 to 1.6. So there is no losses in the waveguide. So you can see the loss unit is, the loss is expressed in decibel per centimeter. It is almost 10 to the power of minus 50. It is almost, it is very close to 0. So there is no losses in the waveguide. So similarly, you can look the other parameters, gain, group index, group velocity. And one parameter I am very interested is this dispersion is very, very important. So the dispersion of the light. So it is the variation of effective index with respect to lambda. Now you can see this dispersion, it is having one peak at this particular selected wavelength around, let me say it is around 1.53, some peak it is showing. So this we can always debate. So why we are having a peak at this 1.53 for the selected wavelength. You can see the dispersion unit, it is picosecond per nanometer per kilometer. So it is the dispersion of the selected mode. Then we have beta. This beta is very important. Okay, beta calculation. This is the beta variation. I told the beta, it is calculated from the even effective index also. So this is the variation of beta with respect to wavelength. So from this frequency plot, whenever we go for the frequency sweep, we get the effective index result, the loss, even the gain, group index variation. So if I click on the group index, it will show it is a group index means it is like a variation of effective index with respect to lambda. It will take 2 points, then it will calculate. If there is some variation, it will show. Okay, so the variation, that group index variation also we can see here. And this is group velocity variation and dispersion and characteristic impedance. So this impedance is not related to our waveguides. So waveguide is not a radiating element or some other parameter. You won't get any data for the impedance because it is totally uncorrelated to waveguides concept. Okay, the major results are, one is the effective index, and one more always we can look into dispersion, and the other parameter will be loss. Okay, the loss is completely zero. Now, instead of say now I have taken this silicon waveguide. Now at the same selected wavelength, so just if I select any other material which is not optically transparent in the infrared wavelength region. So let me change this silicon to, let us say that this silicon nitride. So this silicon nitride is transparent only in the visible wavelength range. Say suppose if I find the modal solution at the infrared range, even though if you have the modes, the losses will be huge so that we won't get any propagation of the light even for few nanometer range also. So let me just apply the settings. Okay, so then let us say let it run once again. So now I have changed that instead of silicon waveguide to silicon nitride. So you can see that changes in the prospective wave. Let me enlarge this. So this is the prospective view of the silicon nitride. So here just instead of the silicon, what I did is here, this I changed the material to silicon nitride. So just I am looking into that loss parameter. Since silicon nitride is transparent at visible wavelength, if I simulate the structure, let us say the wavelength has same wavelength, say it is 1.55. If I calculate the modes, so the silicon nitride is around 2.22, that is the refractive index maximum value. Let us search up to 2.5. So if I search the modes, then if I see the loss parameter, it will be huge. So it won't be zero. So it is finding modes for the silicon nitride waveguide at 1.55 micrometer. So if there is any confinement, we will get the solution. Otherwise, it won't show any results. So meanwhile, any questions are there, you can ask it. So at this particular wavelength, it is not showing any results at all.
So it just shows how to extract the text values from the dispersion curve or ineffective versus wavelength.
Okay, so then 1 minute. Let me change this to once again material as silicon. Yes, we got modes here. So let's 1 minute, madam. It is calculating the calculations once again.
Sir, is it audible to you?
Yes, yes, it is audible, sir.
No, sir. Actually, my question is, like a COMSOL, it is fully flexible, or we have to use that, like you are showing existing structure, some structures inside the for the photonic crystal fibers. So we have to take that one and we should modify that the parameter, existing parameter.
No need, sir. So like COMSOL, it is very flexible. You can design our own structure using, so first we can draw the 2D layout in a normal page. Then based on that particular geometry, in the same way as we develop structures in COMSOL, the same procedure can be used now to create the structures.
Okay, sir. But in COMSOL, last once we include all the structures, we make it as a one complete structure.
Yeah, here
So
also
here-
we can do it. We can group all the components into one single structure. That option is
Okay.
there.
Okay.
So in this case, for example, so it is calculating that model analysis. So here I have two different components. One is the oxide layer and other one is the silicon layer. I can
Yes,
select
sir.
both of them. I can right click and I can add to one group. I can group that as one waveguide. I can give the name as waveguide. Same way we can do it. See, like these are the two layers we have. Just you can
Yes.
select both, right click, okay. So we can add it to one new group, group. We can group these two elements. That option is available because it is in simulation. This is in the simulation mode, so I cannot group it now. So I will show you later. So
Okay.
first, as Madam asked, how to take dispersion values. So this is the dispersion. Here you can't take the data, Madam. Just even if I click on the plot in a new window, so you can see the plot directly. Now we have the option. You can export the image. Okay, you can export the text file. So you can click on this export to text file. So first, what here you have to do it is first you have to come to this frequency plot. By default, when you run that frequency sweep, it will be in this mode plot. Then you have to select this frequency plot. Then only you can see all these results. Okay. Then you can select the dispersion. Go to plot. Click on plot in new window. So you will get this dispersion plot. Okay. Then you can export one text file. Okay. Export to text file. And now this is a dispersion data. And remember this, whatever the data we are taking out of this tool, the standard units will remain same. Electric field means it is volt per meter. You need not to multiply once again 1 micrometer or 1 nanometer for that. You don't multiply, you keep the data as it is, and you have to use the standard SI units. So it is dispersion in silicon waveguide. So just I'll give dispersion assay, so I can save this. So it will be saved in that particular file. Okay, so let me see that data. Let me change the screen. Can you see the data? So the dispersion is already showing what is the SI unit. The moment we export the data, so it will show the respective unit also. This unit you need not to change. Even if you plot in either, whether this text file is visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So this dispersion unit we need not to change. This unit will be picosecond per nanometer per kilometer. So we are not interested in this X data. I wanted only the Y data in order to plot the curve. So first we can delete all this X data. So this is just it is a width variation. This is from 1.5 to the maximum will be 1.6. This is the wavelength versus dispersion. The starting wavelength is 1.5 micrometer. The last data X data will be 1.6 micrometer. So whenever you want to plot this particular same plot using Mathematica, it needs only one coordinate value. So this x coordinate is a fixed coordinate. You can give x coordinate as varying from 1 point to 1.6. Within this particular wavelength range, the dispersion is varying from 1847.49 to the last value. It is how much? Negative minus 1 point, some value is there. Okay, so this single y coordinate data we can retain. So we have to delete each of the x coordinate data by selecting individual value like this. Then we can save that particular file. Then this entire text file we can import it to Mathematica or Origin, and then we can plot the required plots. So like this we can delete, and even
we can directly insert into that Excel sheet, no sir? Directly.
Yes, Excel sheet we can directly insert, but I want only the y coordinate value. X coordinate anyhow we know it is from 1.5 to 1.6.
No, instead of that, you can insert in that Excel in the sheet automatically by the comma itself. It will identify and put it into the second column, sir.
Yes, that is available in Origin, I think. Yes, this is if I want to use Mathematica, there I cannot give both the x comma y data like this. I have to delete the x coordinate and only the y coordinate I can give. But while exporting itself, there is an option called as you can export only x data or y data that is available in the licensed version. So in this trial, I cannot see that this one. So, but in the licensed version, I can export only the y data. That y data we can export it directly, and you can retain this y data unit as picosecond per nanometer per kilometer. This we should not disturb, and the same legend can be given for the y coordinate while plotting the data. So like this, we can take out any data from the modeling tool.
Sir, can we get the reflectance and transmittance values?
You cannot get in this particular solver, sir. Just let me take one more example. Actually, this tool, it is having so many solvers, so it cannot be done it in 1 hour or 2 hours. Just as I told, reflectance and transmittance. I will open one more example. That we have to change the solver. So in this solver, we can get only the modal solutions. That is the solution for the Maxwell equations. All the modal results you will get, and you won't get any reflectance or transmit that you can calculate using the EX or EY.
So do we get accurate result
Yes,
using eigenvector solver or EME solver?
EME solver gives more accurate values.
Okay.
1 minute, let me present one more window. This is one example of solar cell, sir. As you asked, the transmittance and reflectance. If you want to see that the transmittance and reflectance, we have to use these power monitors. This is an example of one solar cell that we have done it in our R&D lab. It is one of our research scholar work. Okay, so we use the light as that is the plane wave source as the source of input for this solar light. And I am interested to find out what is the transmittance or absorbance at each of the layers in this stack-like arrangement. You can see the complete stack-like arrangement. Okay, there are so many stacks of arrangements will be there in the solar cell. And I'm mainly interested in the absorbance in the active region. Okay, so if you want to find the absorbance, so as I told, it is transmittance and the reflectance is a very important parameters. So whatever the data that is collected by these power monitors, okay, suppose if the power monitor, if it is placed backside of the source, it will give you the reflectance. And if it is placed in the direction of that plane wave source, so it will give you the transmittance directly. So if I run this, it will take more than 1 hour time. Okay, so here this power monitors will collect the data of the transmittance. So if I right click the result after running this particular simulation, if I right click, so it will show that T parameter directly. So this we should know where exactly you have to place that power monitors. That means where exactly you have to find the transmittance, that you should know. with respect to that particular position, we have to place the monitors. These monitors can be placed anywhere along the depth direction of our structure, and this will collect the power, that is the transmittance. So here we will get transmittance directly by using FTTD solver. So we have to use FTTD solver. We cannot use eigenmode solver or EME solver, that is FD solver for this. Always we have to go for FTTD. We have to define what is the simulation region and the FTTD region. Then we have to do proper meshing. Okay. Then we have to define the source here. So in the previous case, I have not defined source, but in FTTD, we must define a source. So we have many optical sources available in this tool. So if I click on these sources, we have plenty of sources here. 1 minute. Yeah, so if I click on the sources, so these are the various sources available for exciting the optical structures. We have dipole source, Gaussian source, plane wave source, and modal source. Okay, so these are the sources we are having. And in the case of Mie scattering or some nano particles, we use this particular source, that is scattering source, as one of the energizing source. Okay. So in most of the cases, to energize any of the optical structures, we use plane wave sources, and your dipole sources like your isotropic antenna, we can keep anywhere in the structure. So it will radiate equal amount of intensity in all the directions. So this Gaussian source also we can use whenever we want, in the range of, we want any broadband wavelength source, then we have to define this Gaussian source. Okay, then this plane wave source, it is for the for single wavelength. So for single wavelength, the best option will be the plane wave source. We can give a particular wavelength, or we have the option to choose a range of wavelength also in the case of plane wave, so that we can choose it. And as I told, to collect the transmittance, we have to use this power monitors. So we have represented here, it is a frequency domain, field and power monitors. So these monitors we have to use in order to collect the transmittance. Okay, so just if you place two monitors at different positions, even you can find the reflectance also by using the formula. So always, if you take the overall sum, transmittance plus reflectance will be always equal to one unit matrix. So if you subtract either the transmittance value with the 1, you will get reflectance, and vice versa. So our transmittance will be 1 minus R, or your reflectance will be 1 minus the transmittance value. Always we can find that particular values. And even we can record the simulation, like say if you want to record the ray propagation, we can use this movie monitor also. So there are plenty of options are available in the case of FTTD. So this is advanced analysis. So if you want
Sir, sorry to
yes,
interrupt.
yes, madam.
There is one more monitor, refractive index.
Yes,
How
madam.
it is required, sir?
A refractive index monitor, so that you will get in that modal solution also, whatever in the FD solver I told. Whenever you run that eigenmode analysis, so first it will show you what is the refractive index variation along the entire structure. So someone in the morning asked, sir, what is the variation of the refractive index profile? So if you want to include the refractive index profile, always you can use this refractive index monitor. You run the entire simulation in the respective wavelength range. So throughout that wavelength range, always you will get the variation of the refractive index with respect to the entire wavelength range. But whenever we are defining in terms of structure refractive index, so we will be knowing only the respective value for the single wavelength value. But when you use this monitor, so it will collect the refractive index variation value for the entire wavelength range. But this monitor is there in even EME or FD solver also. This result we will get there also, we will get the same result. Here the extra thing is, whenever you want transmittance or reflectance, then we have to come to this FTTD tool. Okay, then we have to define the simulation region, FTTD region we have to define. Then we have to take one plane wave source. Okay, some source we have to define to excite or to energize the entire optical structure. That too, we have to see the direction, whether it is perpendicular to the propagating direction. That polarization is very important. that properly we have to select it. This refractive index mainly to observe the refractive index profile of the entire geometry.
Sir, is there any way to include a temperature dependency on that waveguides?
Temperature dependency in this one we cannot study, sir, but there is one more module in the FDTD, that is heat module is there. There we can do that complete thermal analysis. That is heat module is separate. It is like one more solver. That I think that is also we can consider. But heat, as I told, whenever we are defining any solver, in the beginning itself, we can give what is the temperature, but with respect to temperature variation, we cannot find it. But initial temperature always we can define for any solver. Here there is an option called as simulation temperature. We can give only single temperature here, but I cannot give more than one temperature. We don't have that option in this particular solvers. But in the heat module, always we can go for the thermal analysis. That is separate solver.
Sir, can we include like multiple solver for the same structure at a time?
Definitely, sir. Because in the FDTD, I can use, yes, we can use FDTD solver. Even I can use the refractive index profile. This one also I can include. Even this, no, we can use different monitors, but the solver can be anyone. So here I can use a solver as FDTD if I select the solver type as FDTD. But only in that first one, whatever I have shown, there you can select the solver either FDE, EME, one more solver is there, that three, any one you can choose it.
So like at that time you can't choose it, right?
At that time, I have not tried it, but that option it won't be there.
Thank you, sir.
Because simulation region, it will be bounded based on the what solver we are taking. So at the same time, we cannot give different simulation regions. So the solvers may get confused.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
So shows how to group all these rectangles are here.
This one, madam.
Huh.
So, okay. So these are just right click, madam. So there is an edit object, add to new group. Okay. So if I don't want to disturb these layers, then select all this by using that control button, add to new group. Okay. So it is under new group. So now if you want to give some name for this, so this is a solar cell. I can name this as solar cell. So just apply. Okay. So now all the elements, whatever the layers was there, it is under this solar cell. You can see only monitors here. Now this is solar cell. This is only geometry. See here you can have the option to disable one by one. Say if you want to see only the structure, this is structure and remaining everything you can untick. Okay. This is only the structure you can see. This is a structure 3D layout. You can pan like this and you can see the 3-dimensional variation. So you can zoom this and even you can export it to our normal image to include it in the papers as well. So then later we can label it. This view we can adjust it so that this view is very clear to clearly visible. Then we can export this particular view as a 3-dimensional view, and we can label all the different layers names and what is the thickness, everything. So you can click this. This way we can export it. So there is an option called as view, export view. You can export this particular view. Then later we can label it. And even this
trial version is for 1 month, is it?
Madam, trial version, it is for 1 month for one device. What we can do, literature survey, we can do it. Then we can fix up the parameters. Then we can go for trial version. 1 month we will be having the license. Okay. Then 1 month it gets over, madam.
Okay.
Then
what is the approx cost, sir, for the licensed version?
Licensed version, so each module is having different cost. So now it is everything like one numerical suite. It varies, madam. So like it is
Approximately.
approximately whatever we purchased for 2 years, it is around 8 lakhs, madam.
Okay.
It is approximate cost.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you.
So this is a license version I got from Ankush. He is the manager. So even though I have downloaded many times in my PC, since I requested for this FDP, he gave me this license.
Okay. Okay, sir.
So we require institute email ID to install this.
Yes. Yeah, always institution. See, if you go to the numerical ANSYS numerical website, so now it will ask 2 registrations, one for ANSYS as well as one for numerical. So previously it was numerical. Now it was hand over to the ANSYS group. Now it is named as ANSYS numerical. So we have to create 2 logins, one for ANSYS and one for numerical. Always we have to, it will allow only the institutional email ID.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes, madam. So anybody can download this trial version. It will be valid for 1 month. So once if you download and install, we can work 1 month in that particular PC. Later, if you want, then we have to use one more device or one more PC is required for the second trial version.
Okay, with the same ID twice or thrice.
Yes, in the same PC, it will be locked, MAC ID. We cannot use it. They won't give option.
That means the same device also I cannot use.
The same laptop we cannot use. We can use some other laptop.
But with the same institution ID, some other device I can install.
There's one more email ID we can use, madam.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah. Yes, madam.
Sir, whether we have to use the same material listed in that tool, can we add some other?
You can add any material, madam. I told, so here you have the material database.
No, not from database. Some other like gallium nitride, if I want to add, which is not there.
There is standard material. It is already, it will be there in the database. See, it is gallium arsenide is there. If you want gallium nitride, yes. The best way is to add from the Selmer's equation. I told in the morning talk that Selmer equation is there. There it has a coefficient A0, B1, C1, B2, C2. Don't give the values of refractive index directly. That Selmer equation morning, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. You can add, madam, but that refractive index you should know for the entire wavelength, or you can use the Selmer coefficients. It has 6 coefficients: A0, B1, C1, B2, C2, B3, C3. If you give that coefficients, it will be evaluated for the entire wavelength range. Then it will be like a standard industrial material.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, madam.
If there are no questions, we will close the session. Thank you very much, sir, for your
yes,
time.
Actually, I have planned for 4 examples, but the initial example only took more time.
No problem, sir.
Yes.
I think we should have a separate for demo.
Yes,
one
separate answer. It means it will be good. So
yes,
like
sir.
interaction offline.
Okay.
Yes,
okay,
madam.
Sure, sir. We can have it sometime.
Yes, madam.
Thank
so
you,
tomorrow,
sir.
I think one more session is there, that is on the fabrication.
Yeah.
So you will get only the simulation part, where we can create the structure. The next thing is see, if you want to publish papers in some SCI papers, they'll ask some fabrication part. So we cannot go for to Sense Lab, or we cannot fabricate it in whenever we want. It is very difficult. So always, if not real fabrication, so we can use that IntelliSuite software in order to show the fabrication process steps. So it will give the almost accurate result as that of our real fabrication methods. That steps we can include as last section of our any research paper. So it will give more weightage for our research papers also.
Yes, sir. That's great. Okay.
Yes, madam.
Thank you.
Yes,
thank
madam.
you, sir.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time. We will close this session.
Yes, madam. Thank you so much.
We'll join tomorrow. Thank you, sir.
Okay, madam. Thank you.